We're here to chat with Candace Parker about March Madness, which we are actually allowed to use as a branding term for the women's tournament this year. And we're talking about the degree bracket gap challenge. Candace, what was your experience like in college in terms of inequalities? How have you seen it change to now? And what do you hope to see in the next 10 to 20 years when your kids are college aged?
Well, it's interesting because I think when you enter into this like madness, right? Like everybody in college plays for the NCAA tournament. Everybody wants to play in March and the first week in April. That was my goal, was to win a national championship at Tennessee. And fortunate enough, I was able to go and, live my dream. But I think when you're living your dream, you notice things that aren't equal and the things that need to change. And with that being said, I definitely have seen a lot of progress since the days when I was playing, but I also noticed that there are so many more things that we need to do. And I think it starts with visibility for sure.
When you talk about Tennessee, well, let's talk about Tennessee now. They've had a lot of injuries, but they're still atop the SEC. What can we expect to see from them in the tournament?
Well, Tennessee is one of those teams that if you notice, every single time you think they're out of a ball game, they're able to claw their way back in. I mean, I don't know how many times people have flipped from the game. My dad flipped from the LSU game this past weekend. Yeah, they were right back in it with a chance to win. So, I think Tennessee has definitely had their share of adversity, as other teams have. But I think the teams that go the farthest in the tournament are able to kind of rebound from that and capitalize on the adversity and use it as an advantage.
So we don't have the brackets yet, but what are some teams that you like to make the Final Four, maybe a title pick?
I really, really love LSU. Kayla Pointer, who is a phenomenal point guard. And I definitely go with underdogs. Obviously we could talk Louisville, we could talk NC State, we could talk Connecticut, we could talk South Carolina, obviously. But I just think the underdog of making that tournament, that Final Four could be an LSU.
What kind of underdogs do you like? Are there under the radar teams that you think can go deep or at least can pull an upset in the first week?
If Oregon is able to get themselves together and get in, they have a squad that can really get things going. I mean, they took Stanford to, almost a possession by possession game. I think Stanford is another team that I think is kind of flying under the radar. Started off really heavy at the beginning of the year with a lot of attention, suffered an early loss. And I think the best thing in the year, if you're not going to go undefeated, it's better to fly under the radar. It's better to kind of like take your bumps early. And then that way, you can be ready for the NCAA tournament.
So like the Chicago Sky.
However, I would rather it not be that way. We don't want to be a 6 seed, but yeah, like this past year.
A big thing about your Sky team was there was so much hunger for different players for different reasons. Is there a team in women's college basketball you see this year with that type of hunger for a title?
They always say that, what is it? Working hard beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. But when you have talent and you work hard, you have the best of both worlds. And I think South Carolina has that. They suffered a couple heartbreaks last year. I mean, I think Aaliyah Boston's image of her missing that layup, her face is like etched in my memory. So I know that that's in her heart as well. And, I think that they're just hungry and they're playing with a tenacity. If they can, balance outside shots with getting the ball inside to their bigs, I think it's theirs to lose.
So let's talk the degree bracket gap challenge, which is always a mouthful for me, but it's very important. The winner will receive a $25,000 cash prize, but they'll also receive a $75,000 donation to the women's college basketball program of their choice. What kind of impact can that kind of money make on a women's basketball program like that?
Well, I think just in terms of the degree bracket gap challenge, just visibility and making women's basketball important and putting it front and center. I think that the amount of money it could really contribute to the women's basketball program, but I think the visibility and the conversation around it does just that much more. And you talk about how we make things better. We make things better by continuing to have that conversation, that to continue to have that news story, to continue to talk about it. And, I think that women's basketball is getting there, but this will definitely help.
Candace, thank you for being with us today on Yahoo Sports.
Thanks for having me.